Okay, I can do this. Hi guys, welcome back to another Market Mastery, the series where we teach you about a champion, their kit, and how to effectively play them. We always pick champions that we have a Mastery 5 or higher on, so don't worry, I promise we at least kind of know what we're talking about. Last week we covered Lilia, and I promised this week to tackle the most complicated champion in the game. And, well, you see the title, so let's talk about Aphelios. Did you know that Aphelios' abilities and gameplay were supposed to actually coincide with the real-life phases of the moon? As in, he would play differently if it was a full moon or a half moon, in real life. I think this can give you a tiny bit of insight into just how complicated his development cycle was and why he became the progenitor of the term 200 years in the League of Legends community. He's complicated. Like, people make fun of Akshan's novel-length abilities, but Aphelios is the only champion in the game that actually plays outright different from everyone else. He doesn't have an E, and he doesn't level up normally. He's an appealing champion to look at, EDG Aphelios is hot, and watching him being played is exciting. The problem is that if you look at his win rate on websites like U.GG, you'd be forgiven for thinking that he actually sucks. But if that was the case, why has he been in the meta ever since his release? Why does he have a world skin? Why is he played even in metas where people don't think he should be played in? It's because while he may look simple to someone just watching him be played, he's a champion that takes a ton of time to learn and understand, let alone master. Yeah, this video is gonna be kind of long.
That was so... Well, I don't think I predicted, but I got it.
Oh my god. Aphelios, as I mentioned, doesn't function like a normal champion. He has no E, and instead of leveling up your abilities, he can choose to level up either his attack damage, attack speed, or lethality. At level 1 you start with your W, which we'll get into in a minute, and at level 2 he gains his Q, and then at level 6 he gains his R. Now to actually explain what all of that even means. Aphelios' passive is called the Hitman and the Seer. Aphelios has 5 different guns, always starting with the same 2 guns, and rotates them out in a fixed order. He wields an on-hand gun and an off-hand gun, which can be swapped to by pressing W. For example, when you first load in the game, you start with calibrum and severum equipped. Calibrum is your on-hand weapon and severum is your offhand. If you press W, you'll swap between these 2 guns, swatching calibrum to your offhand and severum to your on-hand. Every gun has 50 ammo, a basic attack consumes 1 ammo, and a Q consumes 10. Aphelios' Q is unique for each gun, as you may have guessed, so let's discuss each gun in the order that they rotate in. First is calibrum, also known as the sniper or green gun, if you're going by what casters sometimes call it. Calibrum has increased attack range, and the Q fires out a long-range skill shot that applies a mark to a target if it hits. Aphelios gains immense attack range against marked targets, shooting them once with his offhand gun and consuming the mark. So, for example, if you have calibrum and severum equipped and hit your calibrum Q, you can then perform a long-distance auto attack with severum on your marked target. Next is severum, also known as scythe or red gun. Severum has a shorter attack range but has built-in lifesteal. When using the Q, Aphelios gains increased movement speed and rapidly fires both his on and offhand weapons at targets. If the offhand weapon, of course, has a passive, that passive will be applied when using severum Q. Third is gravitum, also known as the cannon or purple gun. Gravitum's auto attacks apply a slow to any enemy hit and kind of puts a little circle underneath them. The Q of this gun roots any enemies slowed by the passive that has the mark. Fourth is infernum, also known as flamethrower or the blue gun. Infernum's auto attacks have a splash effect similar to Titanic Hydra whenever an enemy is struck. So you auto an enemy and then a splash is applied behind them. When you use the Q of this weapon, Aphelios fires multiple shots in a small cone in front of him, and then any enemy hit by this will then be struck by Aphelios' offhand weapon. Again, if the offhand weapon has a passive, this will apply it. So for example, if you have an infernum, if you have an infernum equipped and you use the Q and have gravitum in your offhand weapon, it will then apply the gravitum slow to anything hit by the infernum Q. The last weapon is cresdendum, also known as chakram or white gun. This gun is slightly more special than the other guns as it has its own sort of weird passive. The auto attack fires out a spinning disc, which must travel back to Aphelios before he can attack again. The closer to a target, the faster the auto attack reset. On top of this, if cresdendum is used as an offhand gun in any other gun's abilities, like calibrum or severum, it will build up extra chakrams. Watch these examples while I explain. Say you use severum Q to rapidly attack multiple enemies in a short time. This will build up many chakrams, which each apply their own bonus damage on top of your auto attack damage from the first chakram. When lots of these chakrams are built up, he can deal massive damage in a short amount of time. The Q for this gun also places down a small turret which fires bullets from Aphelios' offhand gun, again applying the passive of that gun. Aphelios will always rotate his guns in this order, so if you have calibrum and severum equipped, no matter which gun runs out of ammo first, you'll get gravitum next, and then the next gun to run out of ammo will be replaced by infernum, the next one by cresdendum, and then back to calibrum again. Finally, let's talk about his ult, because we haven't talked enough about these freaking guns already. Aphelios' ult is called Moonlight Visage, which fires out a large blast of moonlight. If this connects on an enemy champion, the ultimate will fire attacks from Aphelios' main gun on any nearby enemy champions. They have to be kind of clumped up if you want to hit multiple champions, but you can understand how this synergizes with his guns, like a huge infernum ult that splashes onto everyone, or a huge gravitum ult to root an entire team. It can be pretty nuts. Okay, give me a second to catch my breath. Sadly, we're not done yet, as we have to talk about the most important part of his kit, weapon synergies. So as you can probably guess, considering he always has 2 weapons equipped, there are many different combinations of guns, and each combination can be used in different ways. I'm only going to talk about the most useful ones, but just keep in mind that other than the ones I say, his kit can be used in tons of different ways. First is Aphelios' best 1v1 combo, affectionately called by casters as red, white, don't fight, which means if you see Aphelios with these 2 gun combos, do not 1v1 him, you're probably going to lose. Severum and cresdendum are stupidly strong together, as you can start off with a severum Q and then swap to cresdendum to unleash a torrent of attacks. This doesn't only work on champions though, as this combo can also tear through turrets and objectives like Dragon, Rift Herald, or Baron. Next is the main team fighting gun combo, infernum and gravitum. Infernum Q is great at applying gravitum stacks to multiple champions quickly, letting you root whole teams if you're positioning just right. Plus, infernum has great wave clear, and then gravitum is able to chase down targets. It's just really good for team fights in general. And finally is his best poke and harass combo, calibrum and cresdendum. This one's actually new to me. When I first started playing Aphelios, I hadn't even thought of this, and I don't think people were using it much in competitive, but I've started to see this more and more, especially since now he builds fleet footwork rather than conqueror. With this combo, Aphelios can set down a turret to apply calibrum passive and then hit long range attacks while also stacking chakrams. It just builds into this whole thing of basically setting up for a team fight. It's really good for that because you can set down the turret, then swap to calibrum to hit Qs and stack up chakrams along with the turret, letting you stack up chakrams. So then when severum's up, you're basically ready to fight anything that comes your way. Okay, we're done with the abilities, I promise. If it didn't make sense to you 100%, I really don't blame you. I had a hard time fully grasping him when I first played, but now all of this info is stored straight in my head. Each gun has their own unique uses and situations where they're the strongest, and managing their ammo to have correct guns for certain fights is extremely important. Seriously, if you don't want to take time learning this guy, it's probably better off you just don't play him. There's a reason why he always has a server-wide win rate of less than 45%, even though he's one of the strongest ADCs in the game. Now for the runes, summoner spells, bans, and item builds, you know, the normal stuff after the abilities. Got her.
How?
I used my the
flamethrower.
flamethrower Q on her before she flashed. Aphelios' runes tend to change with the wind, as he can use most precision tree runes with great effect, but the optimal choice right now is to run fleet footwork. Aphelios moves around a lot, so building up energy is easy and the extra heal is nice since he doesn't have the greatest range when calibrum isn't equipped. You also run overheal because the shield is nice, plus you're building bloodthirster, so you're going to have a massive shield. Legends Bloodline for more lifesteal, and cut down considering most champions are going to have higher max health than you. Secondarily, you run sorcery with absolute focus to deal more damage while full health, and gathering storm due to Aphelios having great scaling into the late game, and more damage is always nice. Then of course for the additional parts you run attack speed, health, and armor. That's typical ADC stuff. For summoner spells, you'll always bring flash, and then your choice of heal or cleanse depending on the situation. If the enemy team has a lot of CC, like a Morgana or a Maokai support, bring cleanse, but if you're facing an Ezreal Karma lane, then heal is perfectly fine to bring. Aphelios struggles into champions he can't catch up to, so I always ban Ashe or Lucian, or even Zarya if Riot decides to ever put her back in the game. Basically, if it's a champion you can't walk aggressively towards, it's probably safe to ban them. Finally, let's talk about his items. At the start of the game, recently people have been bringing a longsword and 3 potions for extra dueling power and sustainability, rather than Doran's blade for easier CS. Always run Gale Force as your mythic, as Aphelios doesn't have any sort of movement options besides the small increase on Severum Q, and the XQ on the active is very helpful for cleaning up kills. Also, you, of course, build Berserkers groups for the extra attack speed, most ADCs do, unless you're Jhin, although I don't know what kind of weirdo would play Jhin.
Imagine being bad. job done.
Oh my god, Alan.
For your second item, build Bloodthirster since he uses lifesteal so well, and then third, go Infinity Edge. From here, you have a few different options you can go for. Runon's Hurricane is great if your team is lacking a wave clear, and it's also a decent second item if you're behind and you really need to work on your CS. Lord Dominic's is good to bust through armor, and Guardian Angel is great if you're having trouble surviving and you're the main carry on the team. All these items synergize to turn Aphelios into a decent early game champion and an absolutely terrifying late game murder machine. Now for the part of the video that I've actually never done before. This is my first time doing a video like this on a lane champion, so let's talk about his lane phase as well as his CS mechanics. Alan probably hasn't mentioned this, and I know it hasn't come up in any other videos due to them being junglers, but CS stands for creep score, or in other words, it's the amount of minions you've killed. If you're new to the game, you may not realize how important lane minions are, seeing as you get experience just from being near them when they die, but their value lies in the gold they give. At the beginning of the game, a normal wave, which consists of 3 melee and 3 caster minions, is about 110 gold, and these waves spawn every 30 seconds starting at 1 minute and 5 seconds. Every third wave, a cannon minion spawns along with the wave that gives an additional 60. So over the course of 3 waves, if you kill every minion, you get 390 gold. These amounts increase as the game progresses, but just keep this number in mind for now. As you can see, every minion you kill that your lane opponent misses can add up quickly. It only takes about 10 waves to get to around 1300 gold, not counting ward kills or kills on enemy champions. So yeah, CS is very important for laning champions. I mean, just think about it. If you're up 20, 30 CS on your lane opponent, you're literally sitting there probably 600, 700 gold up on them. That's a full crit cloak. And considering how important crit is for ADCs, it's insane. Or, 750 gold, that's a stopwatch. If you're ahead 750 gold, that's a stopwatch that you have that the enemy doesn't have. Laning it's crazy because whenever I first played, I just didn't understand. I had no idea how important minions were. I just was all about fighting the enemy champions, killing minions when I could. But now as I've grown, it's like, oh, killing minions is actually extremely important for making sure my team stays in the game. Because if they're getting minions, if they have 100 CS and you're sitting there at 30, you don't win any fights. Even if neither of you have gotten any kills, that extra 70 minions means that there's no way you ever win a 1v1. As stated earlier, Aphelios starts the game with calibrum and severum equipped, which is great seeing as he doesn't have access to his Q at level 1. These two guns let you safely CS from a distance with calibrum and then heal up when needed with severum. Aphelios doesn't have the highest base AD, so I won't be surprised if you miss a couple minions, and due to his low range without calibrum, he can be shoved off of waves fairly easily. Once you hit level 2, you can start looking to take fights, especially once your guns swap over to infernum and gravitum. Aphelios snowballs very well, so aiming for early kills is never a bad idea, but as mentioned earlier, Aphelios has no built-in escape tools, so try to keep good vision in the river so you don't get ganked. Aphelios works best with Thresh or certain enchanter supports like Lulu or Renata, since she can both shield and empower him, and then Renata has Bailout and the handshake. Honestly, I think Renata's his best lane mate, but Thresh is the most common one because of Lantern, and then Lulu for the auto attack steroid that she gives you. Once you get enough gold, go back and grab Noon Quiver to make killing minions way easier, as well as making trading with enemies smoother. If you're ever left alone with the turret, Severum and Cresdendum can shred through tower plates with ease. If things have gone well, you should have Gale Force right around the time the laning phase ends, which means fighting is something you can do with little issue. When ahead, there aren't many ADCs that can 1v1 Aphelios, but always keep in mind your gun combos before taking any fights. You probably want either Cresdendum or Severum equipped if you're planning to do some fighting. Also, do not stop farming. Aphelios shreds through minions after getting boots and Noon Quiver, and his power spikes with items are stupid strong, so getting more gold is important if the enemy team is playing passively. If you're ulting in a team fight, aim to use either Cresdendum, Gravitum, or Infernum, and Calibrum if you're in a 1v1, both for ult damage and then the additional long range auto. Honestly, once you get the fundamentals of this down, Aphelios plays like any other mid-range ADC. You want to stay in auto range while staying behind your main frontliners, though depending on your items, you can take damage and heal it right back up, no problem. I'm getting the feeling back. I'm getting it back.
Let's go.
I mentioned it before, but he is stupidly strong from ahead. And once he gets 2 or 3 items, like there's basically no one in the game that can 1v1 him. In conclusion, Aphelios is fun. I used to be a Twitch one-trick back when I first started playing League, and Aphelios was the first ADC that made me want to actually branch out. He taught me how fast my hands need to be in League of Legends, and he was my launch pad in learning new roles and becoming better at the game. Honestly, if Aphelios hadn't come out, I don't think I'd be a jungler. I don't even think I'd be playing League. I owe a lot to this dumb champion, and I'm actually pretty proud to say that I'm decent at one of the hardest champions to play in the game. Let's go, bro.
Let's go.
So, you know, anytime you're watching a game and people type 200 years whenever Aphelios hits a big infernum ult and kills someone, just know that it actually does take a little bit of skill. Not hitting the infernum ult, but getting to the point where your infernum ult does one-shot everything. There's a lot of skill that goes into the champion that people don't realize. When he came out, yes, he was busted. The calibrum Q auto passive range was literally infinite. And infernum had insane splash damage on the ult. But now I think he's in a safe spot where I don't think he's gotten an update in a patch in like 5 or 6 patches, because he hasn't needed it. Sure, he's bad in low elo, but that's not because he's bad, it's because people are bad. Aphelios takes a lot of time to learn and understand, and people don't want to do that. People want to play Veigar or Tristana, who don't take that much work to understand how to play them. Whereas for me, I like to learn the harder champions. I say that, I play Rammus, but Lily and Shaco, you know, aren't the easiest champions to play. The champion we're doing next episode also is not going to be the easiest to play. Like, I like to challenge myself, and Aphelios is what made me realize that. When I first started playing him, I sat down, I looked at his kit, and I said, this is going to take work, and I like that. I like when I have to play a game. You know, I don't like when I can just sit on a champion and press E and press W and press Q. Yumi, I'm looking at you. We are probably never going to do a video on you, because while you do take an amount of skill to play, I still think you are the most brain-dead champion in the game for the most part. I haven't really decided on the subject for next episode, to be honest with you. We just finished getting some recordings for Zac, Pantheon, and Volibear, so I still haven't decided yet what exactly we're going to do. If there's something you guys want to see down below, you can tell us. I want to do a more simple champion after doing Aphelios. This video was quite a bit longer than the other episodes. I mean, the Jin one was 9 minutes, and I think this is 19 minutes. So, yeah, we want to do something a bit simpler. I don't know if I'm going to go back into the jungle, though. I think I want to do mid lane. You know what? Actually, next week or next episode, I am going to do a Mark of Mastery for Annie, my favorite mid lane champion. So look forward to that next episode. Thank you guys so much for watching. Really, I appreciate it so much. The Lilia video absolutely blew up, at least in terms of my channel. It's currently the second most viewed video on our channel, so that's exciting. I really appreciate the support. I'm hoping this video also does very well, because I love Aphelios, and I want people to understand why I love Aphelios and understand. I really hope with this video I can properly teach people how to play him, because it's hard, but he's fulfilling to play with. When you're ahead with Aphelios, there are few champions in this game, in my opinion, that feel better from ahead than Aphelios do. Like, yeah, there's infinite stacking champions like Senna or Veigar, and you can one-shot people and whatever, but there's so much skill expression with Aphelios, so many outplays that I hopefully was able to show in this video. And I get a rush when I play him when I'm ahead. For the most part, I don't play him anymore. I hate bot lane with a passion, but I did go back into the bot lane for him, and I will be going to the bot lane. I will go back to the bot lane at least one more time whenever I end up doing a Twitch episode. But for now, really, thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see you later. Bye.